So here we are, I pop it open in Motion Builder. I'm using Motion Builder 7.5 here, but the process is exactly the same for the later ones as far as I've seen. I've tested this up to Motion Builder 2010. I don't see there being any difference on 2011 because the joint system has been here since version 7 of Motion Builder. So to that extent, nothing has changed. So I characterize him by simply dropping the character template onto him and clicking characterize. I just dump on a motion in whatever manner I happen to want to apply the motion, either from a character or actor, or in the story mode here. Anything of that nature works. And there you go, the motion is applied. Now straight away we can see that there's a problem here in Motion Builder. We can see that the arms are penetrating. They've gone, into the body there. Why has this happened? Well, the simple reason why is because of the way I exported out of LightWave. Remember I said Motion Builder wants a T-pose between characters. Okay? It understands the fact that this skeleton is correct. It understands that the coordinates are aligned to world, but because I've left them posed down at a 45-degree angle like this, it thinks that this is T-pose. Basically what it means is whatever pose you use to export to Motion Builder, that is the pose that Motion Builder will say is the T-pose, or is relative to T-pose. If, for instance, I had the legs bent when I exported to Motion Builder, if I were to, have my legs posed in this sort of a fashion, then when I went to apply a motion and a character went to stand straight up, this is as far as the leg would extend. It wouldn't extend out to completely straight, because Motion Builder would think this was completely straight. Okay, you say, so I can't really, set up my character for Motion Builder whatever pose he's been modelled in. Well, yes, you can, because all you do is you position the bones, you position the joints into your character like this, rotate them into place so as it fits the pose that you've got modelled, and when you're done, you simply, bind the bones to your mesh as you would, and you just set them then all back to 0. This leaves your modelled mesh in LightWave in whatever pose it was modelled in, but it puts you back to a T-pose before exporting to Motion Builder. So if we now export the T-pose instead, we now find that the whole thing works just brilliantly, and none of the arms are going crazy, because of course we do have a perfect T-pose when we export into Motion Builder. So that's the real trick. You do not have to model in LightWave in perfect T-pose, but you must position or pose into perfect T, into a full T pose, whatever your maximum limb extension is going to be, before coming into Motion Builder. So if you were doing a character whose knees you always want to be bent, maybe he's an old character who never straightens his knees or whatever, then of course you would export in that fashion to Motion Builder in that maximum T pose, that maximum extension pose that you want to set, and Motion Builder would respect that. And the procedure now, of course, now that we've got our motion in Motion Builder, for bringing everything back to LightWave is incredibly simple and straightforward. Plot your character down to skeleton just as you normally would in Motion Builder when finalizing. You save the file as an FBX out of Motion Builder. And then to reapply it in LightWave, you simply have to convert it into a LightWave file first. All that we simply do is we use LightWave's load scene, and we choose the FBX file to be loaded. This again uses the native LightWave Valkyrie plugin to import the FBX. So we're not going through an FBX importer, we're just using LightWave's load scene. Here this is our motion in, not deforming brilliantly because of the way that Motion Builder handles weight maps and so forth. And when you export using Valkyrie, it'll auto-weight it for you, and it doesn't exactly work brilliantly, but it's good enough to get the motions on and see what you're doing. But you will notice certain things have appeared here in LightWave, namely all of these nulls. You can leave them, you can get rid of them, it really doesn't make any difference. All that matters is the fact that we've got our object here, and we've got the bone hierarchy for FBX underneath it. We save this scene as a LightWave scene file now, not as a FBX. Come back to our original version of the character, okay, that we set up for FBX export. who can, be posed in whatever manner, because of course we're just copying on rotations, we're not recording pivots, so none of that will matter. Use LightWave's load from scene, choose the file that we just saved out, and what we want, I'm just going to click select none here, and I'm going to choose the R-human, which is my mesh, which was of course the parent of all of the bones. I'm going to check merge only motion envelopes, click OK, and bingo. There's our motion completely copied over. No problems at all. That's it. That's all there is to it, doing it with the native LightWave toolset. It really is straightforward, as long as you obey the export pose for Motion Builder, and as long as you have your coordinates on your bones correctly set up. There is one other thing I'll point out when it comes to pose. If we look at our fella here, personally I would say that these collarbones have dropped down a little low. Let me just switch to shaded mode quickly. This shoulder has come down way too low here. It really has. Why has this occurred? The reason that this has occurred is again because of the way that T-posing works. Notice that the way I've got it set here, my clavicle bone is completely planar. You see it goes, complete line, straight line into the arm bone, and so on and so forth. Now, in natural human anatomy, when you put your arms completely straight out to the side like this, you have to lift the collarbone. The human shoulder will not allow the arm to go completely straight out like this. It will not rotate that far. The only way that you can get your arms out that far, to this level here, talking, frontally speaking, is if you lift your collarbone. Okay? So, of course, the actor who was on the motion capture stage, when he posed himself into T-pose to create the reference frame, his collarbones will have been raised up. The problem we have is this collarbone is flat. So, of course, when the actor then puts his arms down by his sides, his collarbones will have dropped, motion will be recorded, and the result is that our collarbone will get dropped as well. And so arm at side becomes something like this, which, as we can see, looks completely wrong. How can we fix this? Well, you can, of course, play with the retargeting tools in Motion Builder itself, but you can always, in the same way as the pose in LightWave determines the relative T-pose in Motion Builder, you can just as easily pose your clavicle up some, then pose your arm back down, and then when you send that pose into Motion Builder, we'll take this as the rest pose, and of course that will stop your clavicles from dropping too much. And that's really one of the main problem areas that you do get with mocap, is the clavicle. There's a control in Motion Builder's retargeting system for it called shoulder reduction that helps you fix this, but you can do it directly in LightWave before exporting. That really is all there is to it. Yes, you do need to have the bones or the joints in the correct hierarchy. They do need to have the correct names. Okay, absolutely. Am I going to go into details of setting all of that up, and the names and hierarchy and so forth? No, I'm not going to bother, because quite frankly, just go to my website, rebelhill.net, and the shares section, and in there you'll be able to download this skeleton and this object, which you can use as a starter object. And from there, you can just quite simply load it up, reposition it, reshape it to fit your own mesh. You can then quite easily export out to Motion Builder, as I've shown. You will get a perfect result every time between LightWave and Motion Builder, and that really is what there is to it. It's very simple, it's very straightforward. It works perfectly with the new LightWave native system for importing and exporting. So I hope that's demystified the workflow between the two packages for you. One thing that I should mention, of course, that I did not mention, is that your character in LightWave, when you export, needs to be facing negative Z, okay? Or, if you prefer to say, his left-hand side must be on positive X, alright? That is the way that Motion Builder wants to have it. In Motion Builder it says facing positive Z. That's because the Z axis is flipped between LightWave and Motion Builder. LightWave's negative Z is the same as Motion Builder's positive Z. If you did want to be one of those folks who models their characters in LightWave facing positive Z, then that's fine. You can model it that way, and you can position the FBX skeleton hierarchy into it facing positive Z. No problem at all. It's exactly like posing any other piece. Once you've posed the skeleton into it, bound it to the mesh, you simply spin it back round 180 degrees so it is once again facing the negative Z, and then you export to FBX, and it will come into Motion Builder facing the positive Z in Motion Builder, and everything will be correct. That's all there is to it. It's that simple. So, happy motion capture.